You think dating is complicated now? Ancient humans had it figured out with a system so subtle, most anthropologists missed it for decades. There were no words for "I like you." There didn't need to be. Think about that for a second. No dating apps, no texting, no slipping someone your number when nobody's looking. In a hunter-gatherer band of 20 or 30 people, everyone already knew everyone. Every face, every voice, every habit. So how exactly do you tell someone you're interested in them when there's absolutely nowhere to hide it? Let's kill the first myth right away. People picture ancient courtship as crude, almost animal. Grab, drag, done. That picture is lazy, and it's wrong. Real hunter-gatherer societies, studied by anthropologists across completely unrelated cultures on different continents, show something far more careful, far more human. A quiet, coded language of interest built entirely out of gesture, timing, and silence. Here's the problem your ancestors were actually solving. In a small band, there's no privacy. None. Every conversation gets overheard. Every glance gets noticed. If you walked up to someone and openly declared your feelings, the entire camp would know within minutes. And if that interest wasn't returned, you'd both have to sit around the same fire every single night for the rest of your lives. Rejection couldn't be loud. It had to be survivable, so a system evolved. Not written down anywhere, not taught in any formal way, but passed on the same way everything else was passed on back then. By watching, by feeling it out, by getting it wrong a few times and learning fast. The first piece of that system was proximity. Not standing next to someone. That's easy to fake. Choosing where you sat night after night without ever announcing why. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups, whose social patterns closely mirror what we know about deep prehistoric life, noticed the same thing over and over. A person doesn't just sit anywhere around the fire. They sit near who they're drawn to, close enough to matter, far enough to still look like nothing at all. Do that 3 nights in a row, and everyone around that fire already knows. Nobody has said a single word. Then comes the second layer. And this one is almost invisible if you're not looking for it. Mirroring. When 2 people are genuinely interested in each other, they start to unconsciously copy each other's movements, reaching for food at the same moment, laughing at the same beat, shifting position in sync without either person noticing they're doing it. Modern psychologists still study this exact behavior today, and they've found it shows up most strongly, and most honestly, right at the start of real attraction. Your ancestors didn't need a word for it. Their bodies were already speaking a language older than any word could be. And then there's the part that really surprised researchers. Sustained eye contact, held just a little too long, followed immediately by looking away. Not a stare that reads as aggression in almost every human culture on Earth. A held glance, then a break, then, later, another glance. It's a rhythm, a question asked without a mouth ever moving. And here's the clever part. It's completely deniable. If the other person doesn't look back, nothing happened. No embarrassment. No story that spreads around camp by morning. Just silence. And both people quietly move on with their dignity intact. Now picture the actual scene, because this is where it gets human. A young woman sits at the edge of the fire circle. A young man arrives late from checking snares. And instead of sitting where he usually sits, he sits 1 space closer to her than he did the night before. Nobody comments on it. Nobody even looks up. But 3 people at that fire clock it instantly, including her. She doesn't move away. She also doesn't move closer. She simply doesn't leave. That's the entire conversation. That's the whole negotiation. And somehow, everyone at that fire understands exactly what just happened, without a single sentence being spoken out loud. This is where the caveman myth falls apart completely. This isn't crude. This isn't clumsy grabbing in the dark. This is an incredibly refined social system, built by people who understood something we've mostly forgotten in the age of instant messages, that some of the most important conversations a human being will ever have don't need language at all. And there's a reason this system had to be this careful, this quiet. In a band this small, a failed approach couldn't just be awkward. It had to be survivable for everyone involved. If rejection became a public event, it would poison the entire group for months. So the whole system was built around one goal, protecting people's dignity while still letting real feelings move between them. Subtle enough to retreat from safely. Clear enough to actually work. Gifts played their part too, but not in the way you'd expect. Not grand gestures. Small, practical things. A particularly good piece of meat, quietly passed rather than announced. A well-made tool, left where the other person would find it, never handed over directly. Anthropologists call this indirect gifting, and it shows up again and again in small-scale societies around the world. The gift says everything. The giver says nothing. If it's returned, or ignored, or simply left there, that's an answer too. And nobody but the 2 people involved ever has to know what question was actually being asked. Here's what's remarkable about all of this. Every piece of it, the The seating, the mirroring, the glances, the quiet gifts exists for the exact same reason. To let real feelings travel between two people while leaving both of them a way out. That's not primitive. That's actually more emotionally intelligent than a lot of what passes for modern dating. Your ancestors built an entire social technology out of nothing but patience, subtlety, and respect for how fragile a human heart actually is, especially one that has to keep sitting at the same fire every night, no matter what happens. And once two people had, in their own quiet way, said yes to each other, the whole band responded, just as quietly. A woman might start sitting with a man's female relatives during the day. Small tasks would start getting shared between two people who never used to work side by side. Nobody threw a party. Nobody made an announcement. The relationship simply became visible through behavior, through small daily choices repeated until they became undeniable, until eventually everyone around that fire simply knew, and the couple never had to say it out loud even once. Think about what this actually reveals about being human. We assume language had to come first, that you needed words before you could understand another person's heart. But this system suggests something almost the opposite. Long before your ancestors had the words for love, or desire, or rejection, they'd already built an entire working language for it out of nothing but bodies, timing, and silence. The feelings came first. Humans simply found a way to let them travel safely between two people, using whatever tools they actually had. And here's the part that should genuinely stop you for a second. You still do this. Right now, in your own life, without ever being taught a single rule of it. You still choose where you sit in a room based on who you're drawn to. You still catch yourself mirroring someone you like without meaning to. You still hold eye contact half a second too long, then look away, then check if they looked back. Nobody taught you this. Scientists call it non-verbal courtship behavior, but really, it's just an inheritance. A survival strategy your ancestors built around a fire in the freezing dark, still quietly running in your body today, exactly the way it always has. That's the real answer to the question everyone assumes doesn't have one. How did ancient humans say, "I like you," without a single word for it? They didn't need the word. They had something far older, and honestly, far more careful. A whole language made of glances and distance and small, deliberate silences. And somehow, impossibly, it worked well enough that here you are, watching this, proof that somewhere back along your own bloodline, two people figured out how to say everything that mattered, without ever having to say a thing. If this kind of hidden human behavior fascinates you as much as it fascinates me, this channel exists entirely to dig up stories exactly like this one. Hit subscribe, because there's a lot more of it waiting. But courtship was only the beginning of the story, because once two people actually became a pair, the entire band had to figure out something even trickier, what that pairing actually meant for everyone else around the fire. I've got that story ready for you right now, right on your screen. Go watch it, and I'll see you there.